of this video, is NLP scientific? And the British Psychological Society don't think so. And this video is based upon an article that I wrote several years ago. And whenever I share it, that article, it creates a lot of debate and often some heated responses, some of which I thought I would share with you here on my YouTube channel today. Science is important to me, and the way that I teach and the kind of ethos of my college. So I wanted to explore this topic. A few years ago, I read a very interesting article on the Research Digest blog of the British Psychological Society, the BPS, and it was entitled 10 of the most widely believed myths in psychology. And it offers plenty of evidence base that refutes commonly held beliefs in the field of psychology. I'll put a link to that article on the page that this video features somewhere or in the comments. I got down to myth number 9 of the article, where this was the myth that was being cited. It said, myth number 9, neurolinguistic programming is scientific. And they wrote, it's true that a minority of psychologists are trained in neurolinguistic programming, NLP, and advocate its use. But it is a serious error to think that NLP is grounded in scientific findings in either psychology or neuroscience. In fact, the system, which is usually marketed as a way of achieving greater personal success, was developed by 2 self-help gurus in the 1970s who simply made up their own psychological principles after watching psychotherapists working with their clients. NLP is full of false claims that sound scientific-ish, such as that we each have a preferred representational system for thinking about the world, and that the best way to influence someone is to mirror their preferred system. A forensic trawl through all the claims made in NLP programs found that the overwhelming majority are piffle. Their words, not mine. In many contexts, this may be harmless, but in 2013, a charity was called to book for offering NLP-based therapy to traumatized war veterans. And there ends the BPS quote. I strongly recommend having a read of the links included in that quote that I'll put the links to. The Thomas Witowski PDF in particular. One of the major issues that the field of NLP faces, according to me and my personal stance, my personal bias, my personal leaning towards evidence-based practice, is that the field suffers from a lack of direct supporting evidence, though it is sometimes claimed that many underpinning principles have evidence to support them. However, if you go and search for randomized controlled trials testing the very testable techniques of NLP on a research database such as PubMed or PLOS ONE, for example, there will be slim pickings, and certainly very slim compared to hypnotherapy and CBT, for example. However, when this line of thought was posed to one of NLP's co-creators, Richard Bandler, on a BBC interview about NLP, he mentioned that NLP was not really designed to be effective in the laboratory, and that it was less important to fit in with the formalized psychology field in this way. The interviewer also stated, I read in my briefings here that neurolinguistic programming is not supported by scientific evidence at all. To which Bandler questions the type of researchers making those claims. He asks, social scientists or real scientists? And their ability to be able to employ the techniques properly, he brings that into question. He suggests that taking a group of 20 people with a fear of elevators up into an elevator shows success rather than being done by a group of scientists who don't really know how to do it. Though you know, the reasons for the success, if they've not been being tested are questionable. NLP was similarly and perhaps more comprehensively critiqued by Michael Heap in 2008, who has published a number of papers about NLP and aspects of NLP. And a good starting place is his NLP critique website. You can Google and you can have access to his papers that were published by the Skeptical Intelligencer and the Association for Skeptical Inquiry. And they make for some fascinating and illuminating reading. Likewise, there's much more debate and healthily skeptical appraisal to be read and examined online. Lots of what's been said in these critical appraisals has been refuted by supporters of NLP and has stimulated much further debate. I know a great many very well-respected NLP authors and trainers who are simply not interested in acceptance from the field of psychology, and again do not think that NLP is right to be tested in the more formalized clinical environment of research labs. So I'm not really making a point about NLP here with this video. The debate that I tend to offer up is that if you seek to be an evidence-based practitioner, as I do, which I believe is credible and client-centered and so on, and responsible, as much as possible within the hypnotherapy field that I work in, I attempt to do that. It's really quite tough to therefore defend the use of NLP when there's such a damning lack of evidence to warrant or suggest its use. That said, in the interview that I mentioned earlier, Richard Bandler suggests that the NLP is not really to be used as a therapy, as used by a great many therapists, but it's more as a way of, that he says, optimizing individuals. I'm not sure if that's semantic games or not, but it certainly further fuels the debate. Again, I'm not poo-pooing the use of NLP. I teach it. In fact, I created a board game to help people learn it. I've trained with Bandler and Grinder and Dilts and a number of other prominent trainers, and have definitely found some aspects of use with regards to what's offered, in the field of NLP. I think, however, that the attitude many have about NLP being scientific is probably flawed, and that rather than blindly accept it all as fact or as scientific, that we think critically about it. And if we want to be a responsible evidence-based hypnotherapist, we consider that hard. That said, whenever I share these thoughts, I get a lot of people that respond in a very defensive fashion and get affronted. A professional peer and a prominent name in the field wrote a comment when I shared the article in recent weeks, and he wrote this about the title of the BPS article being, "Is NLP scientific? The BPS do not think so." And he said, well, it's not much of an accusation though, is it? Given that Bandler and Grinder have always been adamant that NLP is not scientific. That modeling is a different paradigm from science. So I think I covered this stance in the article and earlier in this video, and this doesn't feel like a very strong argument to me. Bandler said something similar in that interview that I've included in this video and in the article when I first wrote it 3 years ago. That NLP was not meant to be used by untrained researchers in a lab, for example. I get that, and it makes sense initially, on the face of it. However, NLP is very testable, and with it being modeled on many other therapeutic approaches, surely we can welcome some degree of scientific inquiry. Just because a subject is not created as scientific, it doesn't necessarily mean it should shy away from some healthy scientific inquiry. Surely as a means of potentially advancing it, actually engaging with those who would scientifically scrutinize it, would offer an opportunity to advance. Would it not? That the same person also wrote, funnily enough, we routinely get results with people who have not only failed to be helped by evidence-based protocols such as CBT and EMDR, but many also report having got worse as a result of the latter, EMDR. So maybe, just maybe, there is more to all this than evidence-based protocol, and maybe a lot less too rigid evidence-based protocol than some who hold it in such high esteem may think. I wasn't sure whether that was a pop at me or not, but this argument, this seems a bit non sequitur to me. I mean, no one has professed undying love for isolated evidence-based protocols here, not at all. So I asked and I replied, do you not think that the way NLP is used by many, perhaps most practitioners, is not protocol bound, albeit with an alternative lexicon, NLP techniques rather than protocols? My experience has been that many do, and I see many clients who have had unsatisfactory experiences accordingly. Additionally, in relation to this and other comments that were made by that person about evidence-based protocols and such protocols being used in isolation, that's not been suggested or championed here in my article or in this video or anywhere else in the thread where this got discovered. Personally and professionally, such protocols are always taught here at my college to be used in conjunction with an effective working alliance and a variety of other behavioral, contextual and psychological considerations when it's applied in a clinical or a therapeutic environment. All of that said, given the choice between a non-evidence-based NLP technique used in isolation of other such considerations or an evidence-based protocol used in the same isolation, I'd opt for the evidence-based one. I believe that to be responsible and professional. In another point then, made by the same person, when I referred to laboratory trials and tests of protocols, he wrote that these were not the same as effective real-world work. And I agree 100%. I'm not suggested to the contrary. I state very clearly and openly in all my classes, research and evidence is there to help inform what we do, not to be blinded by or for it to exclusively direct what we do. I'm not promoting science fascism here, regardless of my really cool t-shirt. It's an interesting debate and seems to get people very sensitive, especially those who support the field of NLP and are invested in it. The problem is, if we do not develop some objectivity, how can we stop it seeming like a cult of seemingly blind obedience? I'm weary of the culture of magical thinking that's inherent within a great many NLP trainings and practitioners, and an overly positive sort of posturing and framing and selling of what NLP is and what it does. And I find training standards with regards to it to be questionable. I think some rational thinking, some healthy skepticism, and some scientific inquiry would help it develop into its potential much more than the mindset that I found to be so popular in my past 22 years in these fields. Anyway, that's it. That's all for this particular video. Do subscribe to this channel. Go visit my college website and explore our classroom-based and online range of courses in the hypnosis and hypnotherapy field. I send you my very best wishes. Goodbye for now.